is tough as hell. He's incredible. He is running for a certain position that's going to be, I think, a very easy victory. Arizona State Representative Mark Finchem is with us tonight, and what a job he's done. Mark, great job, Mark.
When Arizonans had concerns about their election, Mark Finchem had the courage to hold the hearing that led to the Arizona audit, endorsed by President Trump. Mark Finchem is the election integrity fighter we need now.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show called Yavapai Speaks. I'm Lyle Rapacki, your host, and I think what you're going to find most interesting about this show is we're going to talk about Yavapai County from border to border with Yavapai citizens for the most part. Now, there's going to be a few that have a lot to do with Yavapai County, even though they may live in Washington, D.C. I think Congressman Eli Crane would be a good example of that. But there's going to be several other guests that I'm going to bring on, but even though they don't live in Yavapai County, what they're doing impacts Yavapai County. So I think you're going to enjoy it. For the most part, I'm going to bring in individuals who are living in Yavapai County, and they have quite a story to share. It's not all political either. One of my guests, I won't name names and I won't even give you a date. She grew up basically in a wheelchair raising her children, and she even won a tennis tournament in a wheelchair. I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? I've talked with her, I have this confirmed, and she's been a Prescott, Yavapai resident for quite a while. So you're gonna enjoy that show. And that's what I'm trying to do, is find individuals from Yavapai County, from Cottonwood to Baghdad and all around. So if you're aware of somebody that has a great story, let us know here at Prescott E! News. Just contact Prescott E! News, Yavapai Speaks, and give us a hint as to who you think might be a good guest to not only be entertaining, but informative. So I hope you enjoy this. And I think over the next so many weeks, you're going to find some neighbors of yours that you may not have known much about. My guest today lives in Yavapai County, lives in Prescott. He's running for the state Senate up here. Many of you know him from his years of public service. Mark Finchem, he was a state representative for 8 years, ran for Secretary of State, won, and then decided to move up to Yavapai County to get out of the heat and get out of the mishmash in Maricopa County. After he came up here, he was asked to run for the state Senate, not only by Yavapai residents, but by individuals down in Phoenix and in the legislature. And we'll talk about that for a minute. So here's I'm going to say newer resident. He's been here for a while as a resident, but a newer one compared to some who are going to come on for 25 years, 30, 40 years. You're going to be introduced to some folks that have been up here quite a while. Representative Finchem's been up here for a while. He is a resident, and he's running for the state Senate. So, Representative, thank you for joining us, taking time out on your campaign trail.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're most welcome. Talk to us about Mark Finchem, not running for anything right now, but the person, Mark Finchem. You were a police officer in Kansas, I think it was.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That's what I just said, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah.
That's what. Do you ever notice that on my Arizona Today shows? No, everybody corrects me on my shows.
Us former Michigan folks carry a map with us.
Okay.
Kalamazoo is here.
Is it there?
In fact,
Okay.
Kalamazoo is a community of about 260,000 people.
Okay.
University town. So its population fluctuates from time to time, but about a little over a quarter million people, and sits equidistant between Chicago and Detroit along I-94. US 131 is a roadway that goes north, which made it a center for drug distribution.
Oh.
And this was back in I served in 1970s, 1980s, finishing my term of service in 1999. So yeah, it was a fantastic career. I started off as a firefighter.
And you were cross-trained then?
Yep. One of the departments that back in the day, I'm trying to remember, there's a department I think it was Santa Ana, was one of the first departments to cross-train fire and police under the guise, we're going to save you money. Right. So the $1 million that Bob, yes, that was the city manager's name, Bob. He claimed that public safety cross-training, where you take firefighters and make them cops and make them firefighters, you'd have more firefighters to respond to fires and more police officers on the street. And you'd save $1 million. It didn't quite work out that way. As with all government programs, and this is why I'm a big fan of shrinking government and not doing stupid things, it actually cost them $1 million more. So that's a $2 million delta off of what they thought they were going to have versus how it really turned out. But it was a fabulous career. Except for the August 16th, 1978, I think it was 16th or 18th, August 16th, 1978 at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was a nozzleman on Engine 4, which is in the north side of town. We responded to a second alarm warehouse fire where I was critically injured and spent about 3 months on light duty. Smoke inhalation injury, also broke my back. So through all of that, a lot of rehab, and to this day, I suffer some of the long-term effects of that. But I was able to finish out my career for the most part until such time as I couldn't do the job anymore, and decided that instead of taking a medical retirement, because that would have precluded me from doing anything else in my life, I decided to take I was the last guy who could take a negotiated early out. So I did 21 years of service and received a fairly decent pension. Of course, today with Bidenomics, it's minuscule compared to what it was when I first retired. But that left it open for me to seek another career, do other things like work for Intuit, a Fortune 500 company that does small business software. I'm sure people know about QuickBooks. And I even use that in managing the business that I am an executive director for right now, the Election Fairness Institute. So we use that software. But God has blessed me with a very rich life experience in work. And it wasn't just all public safety. So I'm proof positive to those of you who are about ready to retire, there is life after public safety. But it was an incredible career that I enjoyed so much, serving the people of my community. In fact, even outside of the immediate, Kalamazoo, city of Kalamazoo, we were called on from time to time to support other jurisdictions on a number of rescues. I was a heavy rescue specialist, so that was always interesting.
It's another story.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, you are living here in Yavapai County. You have been for a while, and you decided to run for the Senate. What's caused you to get back into public life? You were in a legislator for a number of years, and then you retired. Well, you ran for the Secretary of State's position. Right. Then you retired and came up here to watch the forest and the trees grow, and then you got back into it.
It's a funny thing about those who've been built with a heart for service, and that's what God built me with. Was dedicated to my career when I retired. Did a lot of things, but I really just, even though they were lucrative, I made good money, was still helping people do things. It wasn't public service. That's what God built me for. So long about, some folks might remember we had this thing called Medicaid expansion, which was over a decade ago. I was collecting signatures on petitions, and that caught the attention of some of the political types down in Pima County, which is where I first lived in the Tucson metro area. And then one day, one of the senators called and said, "Hey, we've got a resignation coming up in the House of Representatives, and we are looking for somebody who is tenacious, is not afraid to speak his mind, who has strong conservative values, and we think that's you." Interestingly enough, Senator Steve Smith and Representative Vince Leach were already in the race, and there were probably, if I remember correctly, there was like 8 or 9 people that were in the House race. And oddly enough, I didn't even think about this until recently. I get in the race, and 6 of the people drop out that fast.
That made it easier.
Well, it made it easier, but it's like, okay, what just happened here? Well, the talk was that we would form up a team Vince Leach, Mark Finchem, and Steve Smith. And ultimately, that's what happened.
Uh-huh.
I got elected, and it's been quite a ride. I'm on the backside of 8 years of service in the House of Representatives. I have one of the most conservative voting records, and if you don't believe me, go to Wikipedia and look up Mark Finchem. Okay. He's that radical right, far left, or far right wing. Wikipedia is run by a bunch of lefties. So the bottom line is, I stood by my bellwether for things is I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, also the Constitution of Michigan, which they apparently have abandoned there. But that means every part of the Constitution, not the parts that I agree with.
Well, let me ask you, you're running for the Senate up here in Yavapai County. It's LD1, but ladies and gentlemen, it's the whole Yavapai County.
Yeah.
What do you see? What are your opinions
as to what are the salient issues in Yavapai County? Let's name 3. I mean, there could be 10. There could be only 4.
So just to put a bow on the first question, I was actually asked to run for this Senate seat when folks found out that it started back when I first expressed my intention to move here. Mm-hmm. Folks are like, okay, we're going to have to think about that. And then once that was official, I had moved, I had members of the Senate and members of the community here said, you've got to run for the state Senate position. We're very unhappy with the representation we have in the Senate right now. We think we can do better. We think that the challenger, the community is telling me everywhere I go that the folks that voted for Mr. Zipperman didn't like Bennett, and the folks that voted for Bennett didn't like Mr. Zipperman. Okay, that's a toxic environment. I don't care if one of them won or lost by 215 votes. That's not the issue. What we have is a very divided polity. And when folks told me that story, they said, we're glad that we have a choice, because they didn't feel they had a choice. It was voting for, and this happens in just about every election. You vote for, I think Tucker Carlson said this, you vote for the least worst bad candidate.
That makes sense.
Well, hopefully I'm not the least worst bad candidate. But to your question about what is mattering to the folks that I've talked to, and I have put on a whole bunch of miles. This is like Pima County.
It's a large county.
Yavapai County. I mean, they're like, plan to drive 5 hours a day if you're going to hit more than one spot.
Yeah, it's huge.
So the major issues that I'm hearing from constituents, number one, top issue, and this is both conversation and with polling, is border security.
Okay.
Now, there are 2 kinds of borders, and with my work that I did the 8 years I was in the House of Representatives, and I left because of term limits, ran for Secretary of State. Many people believe that I was elected, but because of the incredible amount of fraud that happened in Maricopa County, and I'm not given to use that word lightly. We've shown that the Maricopa County election of 2022 was abjectly corrupt. So let's just put that aside. There's nothing we can do about it now. We fought the battle in court. We're still fighting the battles in court. But the number one issue is border security. Now, we've got a physical border, which is our border to the south. And for outfits like Lucha and La Familia Vota and those folks, it's not about brown people. Stop already, okay? This is about international adversaries who are pouring across our southern border, military-age men and women who are fit and ready to fight. Now we have these clowns in Congress, Democrat clowns, by the way, who want to make it, let's enlist everybody in the military so that we can refill our military ranks. And the people who are illegal entrants into our country with 4 years of service, we'll give them citizenship. Okay, that's a recipe for disaster. You're inviting foreign adversaries. Quds Force, look it up, Quds. That's the Iranian Special Forces. We've got CCP, we've got international forces from all over the world who have amassed on our southern border and are pouring over either Arizona, New Mexico, or Texas.
Southern California.
Thankfully, Governor Abbott stood up to the federal government. We can't expect that from I have a plan, Katie Hobbs. She claims she had a plan, but when you ask her what the plan is, apparently her plan is to veto all of the bills that the House comes up with, House and Senate come up with. So border security, the physical border is an issue. But here's the border nobody talks about. And fortunately, we have a lot of engineers who have retired to Prescott and in Yavapai County. I'm talking about the cyber border. This nation is severely at risk. And the first day I walked into office, I asked the electric utilities, what's your recovery plan? What's your resiliency plan? After being in public safety myself for years, contingency planning was part of my job. I was stunned to find out, well, we have one. Okay, great. You want to share it with me? No, we can't. All right, so how do I know how the legislature should be supporting the electric utility? Oh, well, we work with the Corporation Commission. I know you do. I want to know, my constituents want to know, what is the recovery plan if the grid goes down? And that's what I mean. That's my concern about the cyber security section of this. Thankfully, we have Embry-Riddle here. In fact, I know a number of people that work at Embry-Riddle. And this is one of the things that they're educating some of our up-and-coming talent in, is how to protect the cyber border. So we got the border issue.
What would you say are two other issues for Yavapai County?
Yeah, one of them has to do with VRBOs and the Airbnb thing. This is particularly a problem in Sedona, Cottonwood, in the northeastern part of the district, where, and look, I'm a property rights person. I believe that if you are paying the mortgage, if you're the owner of the property, you have the right to do with that property what you will for its highest and best interest. But we have to remember that with every right comes a responsibility. Now, kind of tangential to the abuse of VRBOs and Airbnbs, we also have the housing shortage problem that we've got. We've got people, doctors, nurses, school teachers, police officers. Find a place to rent here. You can't. I mean, there's maybe 10 places that come up because I'm always looking for, the best deal for a place to buy, a place to rent, because I haven't purchased yet. I'm renting currently. But it really strikes me that a community like this has almost no housing stock for young professionals, yet we want to have the highest level of services that we can get. All right. So fortunately, on my voting record, if people want to look it up, I want to say it was 5 or 6 years ago, there was a bill brought before the House of Representatives that would pull away the zoning authority for the county and the city's zoning board for local control. And I voted against that bill because I saw Airbnb and VRBO and all of these rental companies where a homeowner can rent their house out for a period of time. I saw a problem with that because you have the right to do it, but what level of responsibility are you going to show to the community? What level of reason? And that's why the local zoning boards are here. That's why they're in place. Okay. So now you've got the state putting its big foot on local control and essentially taking away that very thing that makes for local control to be effective, and that's called zoning. This local zoning board, you might not like their denial of a zoning application, but the job of the zoning board is to preserve the flavor and the aesthetics of the community, not just to harass people. That's not what this is about. It's to preserve the flavor and the continuity.
So you see that as the main issue up here?
My constituents are telling me, particularly in the northeast quadrant of the state, and I think that that's even true here in Prescott. I've had several people bring it up, that the state seizing the ability for local control through zoning.
So give me
that's a problem.
Give me a third.
Infrastructure is probably one of the bigger ones. And we've got some work that's been done on 69, which quite frankly, I never cease to be amazed by the engineering feat that ADOT has pulled off. And that is in, I don't know how long they are, I would say 1 to 2 mile stretches. They will begin in the morning scarifying, grinding off, I don't know, it looks like maybe 3 or 4 inches of the roadway. And not 100 yards behind them, they're already laying down new pavement.
That's exciting. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That is a change in technology.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this. In the years past, they'd rip it all up. Then it would take a while, and a couple of weeks later, they'd shut the road down and do paving. Instead, here they're doing one lane at a time. Yes, you still have throughput of the traffic, so people are not totally inconvenienced. You got to slow down. You got to be careful. But by sundown, the road's back in order. And tomorrow, they're going to do a new stretch. So we've got roads in Yavapai County that are in serious need of some maintenance. And I'm talking about roads that have obviously had overweight vehicles on them, because you can see right where the road has crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
That is the number one sign that you've got an overweight truck that's traversing that road. So again, I would say border security. We've got the whole zoning local control issue. That's high on the priority list. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the sentiment that we have too much government. I mean, we did some polling here recently, and wow, 16, 17, 18% of the people in Yavapai County, likely voters, believe that government has gotten too big. Now, I kind of think that part of that has to do with the national government and the DOJ and the FBI flexing their weaponized muscle against the people. I think that's a feeder into the issue for too big a government.
Okay.
But then, of course, the third thing I think is transportation and making sure that our tax dollars are coming back into this county to do as much in the way of road maintenance and bridge care as we can possibly do.
Mark, in the time we have left, let me ask you this question. What do you believe are your strengths or a strength that you have, given your life experience, given your experience as a legislator? What are you bringing, I'm pausing on purpose, to Yavapai County that Yavapai County either doesn't have or may not think they need, but you're coming here, you're already in residence, but you're coming here and saying, I have something to offer you. What might that be?
Well, I think I'm going to turn the question around a little bit. I think it's what I have to take to the legislature on behalf of the people of Yavapai County, and myself included. And that is a dedication to my oath of office, a dedication to bringing forward, as General Flynn would say, tell the truth no matter the cost. The need for transparency and for the pursuit, if you will, of upholding the Constitution, not just parts of it, the whole thing. So, for example, I was asked the other day in one of the forums, what's your stand on abortion? Life begins at conception and ends with natural death. And if you go back to our Constitution, and that's a faith belief of mine, but it's supported by our founding fathers in the preamble of the Constitution. It speaks to preserving these rights, these privileges for ourselves and our posterity. Well, posterity is a peculiar word there because it means our children's children's children. Not only have they not been conceived, they haven't even been conceived of. So that's an important thing. And I think that my dedication, my unwavering dedication to standing firm on not just conservative values, but America first Christian values, I think is in the Judeo-Christian ethic. That's the strength that I bring. My yes is my yes, my no is my no.
Excellent.
But I am always open. Some people would think I'm not pragmatic, but I am always open to a good argument. I don't mean argumentative. I mean, if somebody can come to me with a good argument and convince me to perhaps shift my position, seldom do I change my position because I'm very well researched. My education, my master's degree in law and economics, legal studies in economics at University of Arizona Rogers Law School, that along with my education at Grand Canyon University in public policy, that makes for a very thoughtful, process-oriented research mind.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I think I bring. If people want to follow me, they can go to Twitter.
Okay.
Yes, I'm out there. I was banned, but then I wasn't. Elon
Everybody's
Musk
been
put me up 41 minutes after I was kicked off. Elon Musk
Right.
put me back up because a few folks.
So people can follow you how?
Yeah, they can go to at Real Mark Finchem on Truth Social,
Okay.
on Facebook, and on Twitter. It's at Real Mark Finchem, not to be confused with at Real Donald Trump.
Okay.
And yes, I am endorsed by President Trump. And by the way, if I may, I would like to dispel a rumor. I am not on President Trump's list for appointments. There's a rumor that's been going on
Really?
throughout, and I'm not sure where it came from. Think about this for a moment. If the president goes to the trouble of endorsing somebody for an office and they
Yeah.
are successful in getting into that office,
Yeah.
why would he turn around and take the very person that he wanted in?
Exactly.
Because he wants key people in America First positions, key America First positions, and the LD1 Senate seat is one of those. Okay, so that also means that I am not on his VP list.
Okay, so you're staying here.
You may be disappointed, but no, I am not going to be on his VP list.
Thanks to you for taking time out. We joke, but we're really not joking when we say.
I'm serious.
Well, no, when you go from here to North Wickenburg or Baghdad, I mean, it's a travel, or you go over to Cottonwood. I mean, it takes a little time. So
Yeah.
thanks for taking time out. I know you're on your way someplace as soon as you leave here.
Putting up signs.
Okay.
My guest has been Mark Finchem, who's running for the Senate in LD1. Now, that's all of Yavapai County. So, Mark, thank you for taking time out. It is a large county, and I know what you're doing. You're up and going all over the place. So thank you, Mark. And thank you for joining us here today at Yavapai Speaks. I hope you not only enjoyed it, but we'll look forward to seeing you next week.